Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're putting on our detective hats and digging into the logical frameworks presented in our source text regarding the existence of a creator. We're going to unpack exactly how this source structures its case, specifically zooming in on what is known as the cosmological argument. To kick things off, the text poses a really fascinating question. Can we learn about a creator without ever opening a religious text? Does the natural world alone actually offer evidence of a creator's existence? It's a profound philosophical dilemma, and it perfectly sets the stage for everything we're about to explore today. Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to follow a clear roadmap today, moving through 5 key areas. 2 types of revelation, the limits of observation, the witness of nature, the scale of the cosmos, and finally, the cosmological argument itself. Section 1. 2 types of revelation. Our source text essentially categorizes how humanity receives information about the divine into 2 distinct buckets. On one hand, we've got special revelation. This is defined as information revealed specifically through divine inspiration, most commonly through scriptures, where a creator is communicating directly. On the flip side is natural revelation, and this is just information we glean simply by observing the physical natural world around us in our everyday lives. And this brilliantly illustrates how special revelation functions, according to the source. The text argues that the specific detail found in Genesis 1:1, that a creator was there in the beginning and actively created the heavens and the earth, is something we could never have just guessed through natural observation alone. It absolutely requires that direct, special communication to understand those specific details. Section 2. The limits of observation. So, can nature entirely replace scripture? The source emphatically says no, and it offers a highly relatable analogy here. Imagine walking into a kitchen. There's a completely shattered cookie jar on the floor, and standing right next to it is a toddler holding a chocolate chip cookie. Well, we really don't need a written confession to deduce cause and effect from this little accident scene. We naturally piece the clues together. But here's the catch. The argument asserts that natural observation definitely has its limits. It absolutely helps us piece together those clues, like observing nature to deduce that a creator has a mind, but getting to a definitive conclusion often requires an actual eyewitness account. In this framework, nature shows the handiwork, but the eyewitness testimony of special revelation is what provides the granular details. Section 3. The witness of nature. What's really interesting is how the source's religious text actually endorse this idea of natural revelation. It points to passages like Psalm 19, which says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork." The core idea here is that the physical universe actively acts as a witness. It isn't just sitting there silently, it's constantly broadcasting information to anyone who observes it. Now, taking this a step further, the text uses the book of Romans to make a pretty bold claim. It argues that specific, immense attributes of a creator, namely invisible attributes, eternal power, and the Godhead, can be logically deduced simply by observing the physical things that have been made. Section 4. The scale of the cosmos. All right, let's pan out from our earthly analogies for a second and just look at the sheer scale of the universe. 93 million. That is the massive distance in miles between Earth and our sun. And remember, as the source notes, our sun is just an incredibly average star. Yet its mass still completely dwarfs all the planets in our solar system combined. Let's scale up even further. 100 billion. That is the staggering number of stars estimated to make up just our single Milky Way galaxy, stretching over 100,000 light years across. It's almost hard to wrap your head around. And let's culminate this cosmic zoom out. 130 billion. The text uses these mind-bending numbers, derived from observations like the Hubble Deep Field, which literally found 10,000 galaxies in a virtually empty patch of sky, to emphasize the absolutely incomprehensible volume of sheer physical matter out there that logically demands a cause. Section 5. The Cosmological Argument. Let's see how all this builds up as we enter the climax of the explainer. To anchor all this heavy philosophy, the text returns to the everyday principle of cause and effect. It's the practical, common-sense idea that every effect must have a reasonable and corresponding cause. Think back to our broken cookie jar analogy, right? We naturally expect that every action has a corresponding reaction. So here is the source's first formal deduction regarding material cause. Step 1, every material effect has an adequate cause. Step 2, the universe, all those billions of galaxies and stars we just visualized, is a material effect. Therefore, step 3, the universe must have an adequate cause. It relies entirely on the sheer, undeniable mass of the cosmos, acting as that material effect. So the crucial point is how the text actually defines the word adequate. For a cause to be adequate enough to create the entire universe, it must be substantial enough to do the job. And perhaps more importantly, it must exist entirely outside of the universe itself. It can't just be a component within the cosmos, because then it wouldn't have the independent agency required to cause it in the first place. Then the text shifts its focus from physical matter over to time and origin. It goes like this. If everything that begins to exist has a cause, and the universe began to exist, then our universe must have a cause. This specific deduction points directly to that definitive transition from non-existence to existence in time. And that brings us to the profound, provocative question that the source text leaves us with. If the universe truly began to exist, transitioning from nothing to something, what is that adequate external cause? The cosmological argument suggests that logic itself demands an answer to this question. It's a fascinating framework that invites every single one of us to ponder the necessity of a first cause, based purely on observing the natural world. Thank you so much for joining this explainer.